far. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is the 9th annual Ottawa Township High School Educational Foundation Hall of Fame Induction Celebration. I'm Kane. I'm going to be the Master of Ceremonies for our dinner here tonight. I currently serve on the board for the Ottawa Township High School Educational Foundation. This marks my 3rd year emceeing this event after a long stretch with Mrs. Mary Morgan, and I hope that they must approve of what I'm doing because they keep inviting me back. Let's hope I don't mess it up tonight. Before we begin, I just want to point out, if you have a chance, there's a table in the back, and on that table there's a print by Ottawa Township High School, Ottawa artist Chuck Funk. It is a print of Ottawa Township High School. This is an exclusive print that's been made for us exclusively here at the Educational Foundation as a means for us to raise money as a fundraiser. The print is $100 and it's yours. If you have some in the back, if you'd like to take home a print of the high school, you can only get it through us here at the Educational Foundation. And also on the back too, we have available the DVD, Something of Love, a tribute to Roger Am. This was the Emmy Award-winning documentary we did. All of the proceeds from the sale of the DVD go to the Educational Foundation. So take a look. Thanks for that. It is an honor for me to be here tonight in front of so many talented men and women. Thank you all for being here. And I want to take a moment, if I can, to ask those of you here tonight, if you're an inductee, could you please stand for me? Previous or tonight, please stand if you're an inductee. This is our legacy, and we very much appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you so much. You know, we've been doing this Hall of Fame ceremony now for 9 years, and if you step out in the hallway that's just outside this cafeteria, you're going to be able to see the plaques of all of those honored graduates or staff members or those attached to this high school who have had some kind of meaning and importance to our legacy here at this high school. And because we've been doing this here now for so long, we actually have statistics that we can give you. We've managed to compile some of these statistics. On those walls outside are people who represent 13 decades of Ottawa Township High School history. There are 82 inductees overall, including those here tonight. 16 of those inductees are graduates from the 1960s. 16 are graduates from the 1950s, 14 are graduates from the 1960s. 9% of the inductees into the Hall of Fame are athletic teams. And up until today, we didn't have anybody in the Hall of Fame from the 2000s. We're going to rectify that situation here tonight because we have an inductee into our most recent decade of Ottawa Township High School history. Personally, I get excited when we get these press releases that come out and tell us about the yearly inductees because I know it means that I'm going to learn something about the people that I might never have met in this high school before, such as the prolific body of work contributed to a world-renowned fossil hunter and paleontologist now working in Scotland. That's one of our inductees tonight. It also reinforces to me about the legacy that we have here and how all of these graduates don't just stay here in town, they filter out throughout the world to represent us in our high school. That legacy includes one of the nation's premier soil research scientists, a doctor who established the physician assistant program at Des Moines University, a doctor who led a successful vaccination effort against swine flu, a lyric tenor who has graced opera houses from Los Angeles to Berlin, a world-class accountant at one of the world's largest accounting firms, an OTHS administrator who was a pioneer in the early semi-professional leagues of American football, and a hometown OTHS superfan who attended many of this school's events and helped found the OTHS Booster Club. Those are just some of those on tonight's list that I've learned about, but this night is also just a little bit different for me because for the first time since I've been emceeing this event, one of my own teachers joins the ranks of the Hall of Fame. And I'm happy that this list includes someone who inspired me to know more about the history that surrounds us all, most notably of that here in Ottawa. And I'm talking, of course, about Mr. Ronald Slack. And because of him, I've become a local history buff, and I'm happy to see him take his place among those honored. Mr. Slack is a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserves. And with him tonight among our honorees are Mike Balint, a U.S. Navy World War II veteran, and Richard Loeb, a Cold War veteran who served as a navigator in Korea. These men answered the call to serve our country, and we'd like to take an opportunity to ask all those veterans here tonight among us to please stand and be recognized. you all so much for your service. Every one of our honorees, though now from different parts of the country and indeed the world, have something obviously in common, this high school. And it is here that we wish to honor their success and contributions so that graduates yet to be can look up at the Hall of Fame plaques that line the hallway outside this cafeteria and know that once you leave, there is adventure, promise, and success yet to come, using the tools and knowledge gained within these halls and within these classrooms. The OTHS Educational Foundation is a part of the community helping prepare those current students for the life and the adventure that awaits them. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Mrs. Natalie Schmitz, a 1988 graduate and fellow member of the Ottawa Township High School Educational Foundation Board, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about our mission. Natalie?
Thank you, Kane. Established in 1993, Ottawa Township High School District 140 Educational Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit private foundation that secures and channels private funds to support and promote the educational programs and activities of OTHS students. Through generous donations, the foundation provides grants to purchase new equipment, promote innovative teaching initiatives, and augment scholastic resources beyond the fiscal constraints of the school's normal operations. The foundation has provided approximately $300,000 in such grants and other support to date. In addition to ensuring that our students are exposed to the most relevant and ever-changing technology and other educational resources, the foundation is responsible for the Courtyard Project outside Kane Gym, the Hall of Fame, and the Student of the Month and Teacher of the Year programs. Our hope is that through additional contributions and growth, the foundation can continue making an impact on OTHS and the students of the district. One might ask why a public entity such as Ottawa Township High School needs assistance from a private foundation that is independent from the high school itself. The fact is that Illinois ranks relatively low among states in direct funding for its schools. Yet the majority of the more than 2 million students that currently attend Illinois public schools will stay to live and work in Illinois throughout their adult lives. The economic vitality, future growth and development, and quality of life that we all share shall be impacted by this demographic reality. We believe that assisting in the pursuit of educational excellence not only enriches the lives of today's students, but also impacts our communities and collective future as well. The Hall of Fame was established by the foundation to inspire and acknowledge excellence in achievement, be it academic, the fine arts, athletics, or other distinguished achievements. In highlighting the accomplishments of inductees, we believe that current students will be inspired by the standard of excellence and accomplishment achieved by their predecessors. And therefore, we will better foster a culture of excellence and achievement. We are very pleased that the 2015 group of inductees establishes a high standard of excellence for those who follow. It is difficult to categorize our inductees into single disciplines because their accomplishments consistently exhibit excellence in a variety of endeavors. The interconnectedness of tonight's inductees is remarkable, with Ottawa Township High School as the consistent, enduring accomplishment. We congratulate you all on your induction and achievements, and thank you for the examples that you have set. We are proud of what you have meant to Ottawa Township High School and look forward to your induction this evening.
Very much, Natalie. Now I would like to introduce retired LaSalle County Regional Superintendent, Mr. Rich Myers, who's going to lead us in our invitation.
Good evening. Please bow your heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity you have given us this evening to honor the recipients of these outstanding awards. We are grateful for the talents and gifts you have bestowed upon these individuals and for their desire and determination to use these gifts in such a positive way. We give thanks for their family members and for the educators who help to influence their lives with encouragement and guidance. We are grateful for the food we are about to receive and for the chance to celebrate this evening together. In Jesus' name we pray.
When you come into town here off Interstate 80, you see a sign beneath the Ottawa City and Population Information sign. It says, "Home to the Ottawa Township High School 2014 IHSA State Music Champions." In 2014, the OTHS music program achieved its 18th consecutive IHSA State Music Championship. It now has 19 total state championships under their belts. We are fortunate tonight to be able to enjoy some of this award-winning music, courtesy of the Ottawa Township High School Woodwind Quartet, under the direction of OTHS Band Director and OTHS Hall of Fame member, Ms. Sarah Reckmeyer. They will perform The Entertainer, composed by Scott Joplin and arranged by Bill Holt. Music Department prepares for another state competition this spring. We are fortunate to have OTHS Choir Director Andrew White here with us this evening. Leading the OTHS Jazz Choir, Opus 24, who will perform the full version of our school song, the Ottawa Township High School song, Pep.
When you hear the roosters yelling rock, 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 when you hear the chorus singing Ottawa, forth come our heroes facing their foes. When you see the team go crashing on, rushing on to victory, raise your voices loud and glad acclaim for Ottawa. Crimson and white we're marching onward, courage and strength be owed to you. To Ottawa may we ever be true in the life we may pursue. Each boy and girl ever loyal, each loyal heart beating true. In meeting, defeating each task before us, 3 years old high for you. Soon for us our high school days will all be o'er. To thy Savior faithful ever as of yore, we'll still remember your precepts true. When you see our sons and daughters shining on, rising on to great renown, then you'll know that we've been ever loyal, Ottawa. Crimson and white we're marching onward, courage and strength be owed to you. To Ottawa may we ever be true in the life we may pursue. Each boy and girl ever loyal, each loyal heart beating true. In meeting, defeating each task before us, 3 years old high for you. OTT, AWA, Ottawa, Ottawa, Ottawa.
There we go. Thank you very much. That was the OTHS Jazz Choir Opus 24. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you all very much. Well, that's going to conclude our festivities here, part 1 of those festivities. We're going to invite all of you now to gradually make your way over to the auditorium for part 2 of our induction ceremony this evening. Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We are now moving into part 2 of tonight's fabulous evening. Thank you very much for being here with us. My responsibilities here are now coming to an end, and it is my pleasure to turn this over to 1986 OTHS graduate and current Ottawa Township High School Superintendent Matt Winchester.
Please give OTHS Foundation member Kane Farabaugh a round of applause and thank you for being the MC for tonight's event. Good evening and welcome Hall of Fame honorees, family members, and friends. Before we begin the induction ceremony, I'd like to take a moment to thank a number of people that have made tonight's dinner and induction ceremony possible. Please hold your applause until all are recognized. Thank you to the Decade, Nominating, and Selection Committee members for the time and effort that goes into the selection process. Thank you to those involved with the organization and decorating necessary to present tonight's ceremony. Brad Johnson, Randy Green, and the custodial staff. A huge thank you to Don Harris and Kelly Schmidt for their countless hours of work preparing for tonight's dinner and induction, and also recently retired, my former secretary Susan MacDonald, for the assistance with the transition. Thank you to our band and choir students for performing, and directors Sarah Reckmeyer and Andrew White. Thank you also to Tyler Ann, who is taping this evening's ceremony. And also OTHS senior student Josh Dale, who designed and created the PowerPoint presentation that you saw on the monitors in the cafeteria this evening. Another thank you goes to John Heddle and his staff from the Cheese Shop for the excellent dinner we received. Final thank yous go to the OTHS Educational Foundation under the direction of Sam Maselli, Foundation President, also Foundation member Kane Farabaugh for emceeing again, and Foundation member Natalie Schmidt for providing information about the Educational Foundation. The dinner and induction ceremonies would not be possible without the Foundation support. Please give a round of applause to all of the above. During this 137th year of Ottawa Township High School, I again welcome all of you to the 9th annual induction ceremony. The Hall of Fame induction provides a unique opportunity to honor those selected. The focus of the Hall of Fame is to recognize excellence and achievement while a high school student, after leaving Ottawa High School, or a combination of both. Honorees may or may not have attended Ottawa Township High School, but were significant and accomplished contributors to the school. Also considered for recognition are Ottawa High School's teams or groups. I am honored to have the opportunity to recognize a very special group of 9 individuals at this evening's ceremony. Inductees were selected by a 3-tiered selection process, and all are very worthy of the honor. The inductees were chosen because of their achievements and accomplishments in many different areas: business, military service, excellence in teaching, research, and education, music and musical performance, coaching, community and school involvement, publishing, medicine, athletic performance and accomplishments, fundraising, and volunteer work through civic and community service organizations. They've affected the lives of many with their accomplishments. The diversity of their achievements is noted in your program. This same text is found on the induction plaques that will be added to our Hall of Fame wall on the 400th floor, located in the hallway leading to the cafeteria where this evening's dinner was served. The central plaque on the 400th floor wall describes the Hall of Fame, and each year we make it a point to read a specific passage from the plaque. In bold is the statement, "From ordinary beginnings, many, through determination, commitment, effort, and high expectations, have accomplished the extraordinary." I would like to personally thank all of the inductees for their contributions. You make all of us proud to be a part of Ottawa High School. Tonight's ceremony is about the inductees, so it's time for one of my favorite parts of the program, and that's hearing from each one of you or your representatives. I will introduce each inductee, present them or the representative with an award, and ask that they say a few words. So without further ado, our first inductee is Michael Balint, class of 1946, represented by his great-nephew, John Stone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow 2015 OHS Hall of Fame inductees. I'm honored to represent my great uncle, Michael Balint. Michael would like to have been here today, but he had prior commitments and it caused him to remain in Vero Beach, Florida. That's what I thought too. Well, we should have moved it there. Although it has been many years since he left Ottawa, he has fond memories of growing up here and his walks across the Fox River Bridge to OHS. He wishes to thank Frank Polonczyk, a friend from his boyhood years, for nominating him with this honor. It is my understanding that he spoke to Mr. Polonczyk just a few days ago, and they reminisced about their youth growing up on the west side. Michael fully credits outstanding education provided by OHS for his lifetime success. While there was many fine educators at OHS, he wishes to mention a few from years ago: Ms. LeMay, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Hoff, and Mr. Bohan. Circumstances caused Michael to leave OHS before his class graduated. However, the background that those educators provided him in mathematics and science enabled him to qualify for a top-rated Navy program, which in turn gave him his OHS diploma and college credits at the University of Illinois. All those factors assisted him in establishing a rewarding career that took Michael to many places with his firm, Deloitte, which has become the world's largest international consulting firm. Michael sincerely hopes that the young students currently in school take full advantage of the outstanding education offered by OHS and enjoy the rewarding careers in the field of their choice. Thank you.
Our second inductee this evening is Dr. Stephen Brusatte, class of 2002.
All right, thank you guys, and really thank you all for this honor, and thanks for everybody for coming. It's a nice opportunity for me to see some familiar faces that I don't get to see too often since moving to Scotland, and a nice chance to come back home. And it is a really cool thing to be given this honor because, as we've seen, this is a very old high school with a very long history, and it's a great group of inductees this year and over the past decade, governors and opera singers and fellow scientists. So thank you for letting me join this club. And I'm glad to do it while I'm still relatively young so I can share it with everybody, including some of my teachers that really inspired me. So I won't say too much about, my career or anything like that. If any of you are interested in dinosaurs, you know where to find me. I'm always happy to talk about dinosaurs. But it has been a blast over the last 12 years. It's only been 12 years since I've been here, and it's really been something, traveling around the world, digging up dinosaurs. Lots of twists and turns on that journey. Would have never imagined living in Scotland, teaching at a great university like the University of Edinburgh, where I'm at now. If any of you have kids, tell them to come as an exchange student in college. We'd love to see them up in the capital of Scotland. And, I never would have guessed I'd dig up dinosaurs in China or study in England or marry an English woman who, by the way, says hi to everybody who knows her. She can't be here right now. In fact, she's joined the noble profession of teaching, and this coming week in Scotland is something called half term, which we don't have here yet, at least I don't think, but it's like a mini spring break before spring break where the students and also the teachers get to relax. She's at home catching up on her sleep, forgetting about her students from the last semester. But she says hi to everybody who knows her. So I'd just like to spend a few minutes doing really what I should do here, and that's thanking a lot of people, because this journey from Ottawa to Scotland, from high school student to paleontologist, is obviously one I haven't done alone. So I'm very happy to have a lot of my family here. Both of my parents are here. My brother Mike is here. Both of my godparents are here. My Aunt Margie, her husband Arnie, Frank Turk, his wife Linda. So thank you all for coming. All very important people to me. And I've been a very lucky person, because my brothers and I, from the time we were young, we had parents who cared a lot about our education, who read to us, who helped us with our homework, who took us to museums in Chicago and on vacations around the country, parents that sacrificed to make sure that we could go to the college we wanted to. And it was a family where we had a lot of love and support, but also we had parents that opened up the world to us and showed us that there were things outside of Ottawa, as wonderful as Ottawa is. So I certainly wouldn't have gone as far afield without that upbringing. And I think, when so many kids are behind the 8 ball before they ever step foot in a classroom, I was quite the opposite of that. So I was very lucky, and still am. So thank you all for coming. My family, I think, knows how much I appreciate them. So I'll just end by talking and saying a few thanks to the many teachers that I've had, both here and elsewhere, that have really inspired me and taught me, have been a great example to me, and taught me things that continue to be very valuable, and things, and are an example for me that I try to uphold to my students now. my many high school teachers, but Mrs. Roberts, one of my grade school teachers, is here from Wallace, so thank you very much for coming. Great, very unexpected to see you. But here at the high school, so many teachers, and I've written down a bunch of names, so at the risk of kind of being like the Frank Thomas Hall of Fame speech, for those of you that saw that, going through 1,000 names in a minute, I'll just start naming out a lot of people that were very important. My science and math teachers here, obviously critical for what I do. JP, we miss him. Mr. Leonard, very good family friend of ours. Bill Olson, real piece of work. I have another word for him if my mother wasn't here. You can imagine what that could be. Mrs. Schaefer, my biology teacher. Biology is, kind of half of the science I do, so very important. Mr. Brew, Mr. Francis, Mrs. Brozovich, Mr. Swords, math teachers, and many, many other teachers. Cooper, Ernst, Gross, Mr. Hearn, my guidance counselor, Steve Johnson, Haywood, Andrews, Busher, Burgess, Marla Smith, Pillen, Matt Smith, Mr. Zeal, Williamson, and of course Mr. Yups, Mr. Clinton, and Mr. Harrison, who were your seats when I was here. And there's one more, of course. Some of you may have realized there was somebody not in that list. The big one, and he's sitting right there, and at the risk of, offending some of the people I just mentioned, I think everybody has their favorite teacher. I have one, and that's Joe Jacobchek, and he's there, and I won't make him stand up, but Joe, I took Jake's geology class as a sophomore. I was really looking forward to that class. It was a class, like many geology classes, unfortunately it has that kind of rocks for jocks, reputation. That's certainly not what geology is, but that's what some people see it as. But I couldn't wait to take that class, and that's where I first learned the basics of geology. And so we kept in touch after that when I got a little bit older, and I knew I wanted to do science and paleontology as a career. I asked Mr. Jacobchek for recommendations of places to go in the area where I could dig up fossils and I could see rocks in the field. This isn't a place where there's a whole lot of rocks around here. We're not in the middle of the mountains or the desert or anything like that, so I needed recommendations. And not only did he give me many recommendations, but he took me out to many places around LaSalle County over the summers, which was really exceptional because this is where I first learned a lot of those basic field skills that all geologists need to have. Learning how to identify fossils in the field and describe rocks and do basic geological mapping, all of those bread and butter type of things that I teach my students in Scotland now today. And so I did an independent study with Jake when I was a senior. We described some fossils from a site near IVCC. Pretty cool project. Presented it at a few places. We went down to Southern and presented it. We went to San Diego and presented it. It was a lot of fun. It was doing science for the first time, discovering something new. I became addicted to it. I kept with it. And as I went off to college, Jake, has remained a good friend, a good mentor, and a very good friend of our families as well. And, so much that he came to my wedding in England 5 years ago. And we'll welcome him in Scotland soon and show him where geology began as a science in the 1700s. So I cannot wait for that. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. I think, the thing that I'll say to close that out is, I think as, you go on in a career and in life, you realize that there are a few moments, a few people where things really, they're hinge points or hinge moments, where if they don't happen or you don't meet that person, things just turn out a whole lot differently. Of course, I have to say my wife, maybe there's a recording of this and she'll see it, so yes, when I met my wife, that's one of those times, but Jake is one of those other people. Without him, I certainly wouldn't be here, first of all because he nominated me, but also because I would not have gone into geology and gone into a career digging up fossils if it wasn't for him. So thank you very much, and thank you all again, and I can't wait to bring this thing back to Scotland and tell people about Ottawa High School. All right, cheers.
Our third inductee this evening is Don Grobe, class of 1947, represented by his sister, Marcia Happ.
I didn't write anything down. Don started Ida Chamberlain as a piano and voice teacher. Went on to Chicago, to New York, sang in churches for a fee, went to college there, and sang all over Germany and Europe and Japan and California and New York. And so I got to do a little traveling, not a whole lot. In 1970, he was taken as Berlin's son. He was, they bestowed on him the honor of being Kammersänger, which is court singer. And it's bestowed by the Berlin Senate, not the opera company. And after that, he sang at Salzburg, and he had a guest contract with Munich. And my daughter and I went to New York, and he sang at Lincoln Center with a brand new opera that was called The House of the Dead. And I didn't think I liked it very well. Didn't like the title at all. He sang up until a month before he died. He did his last opera in March, and he died the 1st of April. But he started here in Ottawa, in the Ottawa High School music department. This is why we need to keep our arts alive in the schools. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Julie Dierstein Jastrow, class of 1969.
Fold my paper too. Wow. I am really honored to be here tonight. You know how everyone tells you when you go off to college that those years are going to be among the best of your life. And I have to say for me that it really started here. I absolutely loved my time in this high school. I was, and I still am, so proud of the school. The environment was always so great. What other high school has an art collection in the hallways? You know, it's just amazing. And the student body respects that. It's fantastic. We had custodial, cafeteria, and office staff that were simply the best. They were so friendly and engaged with the students. We had probably the most outstanding thing, though, for me was the quality of the teachers that we had here at the time that I was here. Of the 82 Hall of Fame inductees to date, 16 of them, 20%, were faculty members that were here during the time that I was a student, and I was lucky to have classes with 7 of them. Being a scientist requires a strong foundation in more than just science. You need English and communication skills. You need math and statistics, and even an understanding of history. And what you learn in the music department helps as well. OHS teachers, including Merle Burke, Tom Henderson, Jim Harris, Dean Riley, Bill Hamilton, Charlie Alaconis, Harry Adrian, Vernon Adams, and Mary Fennessy, gave me that foundation. It's a privilege to be included in the company of these special people as well as the other members of the Hall of Fame. I also feel really, really fortunate to be standing on this stage again. I have so many wonderful memories of performing here. Words cannot do justice to the profound effects that Ray McKeever and my time in the OHS band had on my life. Music experience I had here catapulted me to some incredible additional musical experiences at the University of Illinois, and introduced me to my husband, Bill, who did his student teaching here under Ray. So that was also very special. But even though I eventually chose to take a career in science instead of music, the lessons that I learned in the band room and here on this stage affect me today in many ways, and for this I'm deeply grateful. Lastly, I have another group that deserves a round of thank yous, and that's my family. First, my parents. Amazingly, the Department of Energy pays me to play in the dirt. And if I were talking today about dirt, you could wind me up and I would just start talking, but this is a little bit more difficult. So I want to thank my dad and my mom for letting me climb around on dirt piles when I was a kid, let me ride on bulldozers and dig in the mud, and collect rocks instead of dolls. Thank you for being at all those concerts and driving me to countless lessons and making special trips all over the place to find a good read. And thanks also to my stepmom, Kathy, who has so ably filled the void when my mom left us. And thanks then to the three of you for all of your support and values and guidance over the years. Plus, Dad, I want you to know that I have always felt really special going to the same high school that you did and having the opportunity to know some of the same teachers that you had as well. To my husband, Bill, and my two sons, Scott and Steve, I thank you guys for putting up with all my crazy schedules and the other demands of my career. And Bill, you are the rock of my life. I love you guys so much. Finally, thanks to the foundation and the selection committee for this wonderful tradition, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Dr. Frank Kneussl, class of 1957, represented by a family friend, Jim Ferraro.
Thank you, and it's really a privilege to represent Frank Kneussl here at the banquet. I'll give you a little biographical sketch of Frank. Frank was born in 1939, and he, as a youngster, had polio, and through tireless efforts of his mother and himself, he was able to lick the disease and started grade school at Jefferson School, then attended Ottawa High School, graduating in 1957. And one comment that I found out was he was so intense in his studies that Miss Marguerite Kempton threatened to flunk him if he didn't get involved in some extracurricular activities. He tried, but I guess he failed. However, he succeeded in many other ways in life. After graduating from Ottawa High School, he went to the University of Chicago and then to Shimer College in Mount Carroll, where in 1962 he received a BS degree in natural sciences. That fall, he enrolled in a master's program at the Stritch School of Medicine at Loyola University and received a master's degree in anatomy in 1966. Prior to receiving his degree, however, he was awarded a National Institute of Health Predoctoral Research Fellowship, which he retained for 5 years. After receiving his master's degree, he went on and received a Ph.D. in anatomy in 1971 and taught for a short time at the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine. In 1972, Frank moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and became a faculty member of the Department of Anatomy of the Medical University of South Carolina. He taught anatomy to medical and dental students and carried out research programs there. In 1982, he left and he joined the faculty of the College of Osteopathic Medicine and Surgery, now Des Moines University. He was one of 3 faculty members who founded the Physician Assistance Program. He was involved in development of podiatric medicine and formulated and developed histology course and laboratory manual for medical and podiatric medical students. Frank taught first-year physician assistant students, first, second, and third-year osteo-medical students, also first, second, and third-year podiatric medicine medical students. He took great satisfaction in assisting less successful students who would accept help to become successful students. Frank served on many faculty and university committees, particularly those involved in faculty and student governances in all colleges of the university. In recognition of Frank's outstanding contribution to the Physician Assistance Program in 1996, Frank Kneussel Service Award was created. Each year, 2 students selected by Frank and other faculty members were given this award. In 2005, Frank received the Distinguished Professor Award, and he received the Des Moines University Appreciation Award from the student government. Upon his retirement in 2005, Frank was awarded a Professor Emeritus. Frank defied all attempts to stick himself in a box or attach a label. Along with being an educator of the highest caliber, he was a joker, a character, enigma, and an anomaly. He was old school, preferring the tools and methods of yesterday to the new technology. Yet he espouses timeless values regarding students and teaching. He was savvy enough to keep everyone guessing whether an underlying message was missed in something he said. 2 complementary themes summarize Frank's life and teaching at Des Moines University. One was that he always sought to do the right thing by students, to prepare them and to think and act like physicians and healthcare providers. The other was to uphold his obligation to society by training the best possible clinicians and prevent some from entering the healthcare profession. Medical education was a likely place for Frank. He comes from a long line of pharmacists and physicians that date back to the year 1100 in Germany. After retiring, Frank expressed some concern about how he would be perceived once he was gone. He admitted to having a mischievous side, although he never intended malice toward anyone. Frank will be remembered as a thoughtful man with a big heart and perhaps a bit quirky, but mostly he'll be remembered as a compassionate person whose greatest concern was his impact on students and their patients. Throughout his life, Frank enjoyed and was very knowledgeable about boats and boating. He also enjoyed woodworking, trap shooting, and other forms of marksmanship. He was a voracious reader. A fellow professor said, Dr. Kneussel would be a kind of thorny and gruff, but he really cared about teaching. He wanted his students to gain knowledge and skills they needed. Frank died in 2011 and made another positive difference for even more generations to come. Before his death, he worked with the Des Moines University development staff to leave a large part of the state to the university. In 2014, 3 boxes of old photos, postcards, tintypes, and glass negatives were received at the Ottawa History and Scouting Museum from an attorney in Des Moines, Iowa. This collection was part of Frank's estate, and items date back to the early 1800s. The museum was thrilled to receive this collection and are arranging for the display. And I have to tell you, this plaque will also be presented to the Scouting Museum in Frank's honor. He was a fine gentleman, so I'm sure up in heaven he appreciates this great honor. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Dr. Richard Loeb, class of 1951, represented by his niece, Lynn Van Duzer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to read my uncle's acceptance speech tonight. So here are his words. First, please know that I would love nothing more than to be in my hometown of Ottawa with all of you this evening. However, I'm in the late stages of Parkinson's disease and I can no longer travel. With that said, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for this incredible honor. I am both humbled and honored to receive this recognition. My time at Ottawa Township High School set the stage for my future endeavors as a pilot in the Air Force and later as a physician in Springfield, Missouri. I am proud to have my name listed among the many successful OTHS graduates who have come before me and been placed in the Hall of Fame. Thank you and congratulations to my fellow inductees. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is Ron Slack.
You ever notice the older you get, the type gets smaller and smaller and smaller? I'd like to thank the Ottawa Township High School Education Foundation and the Hall of Fame Nomination and Selection Committee for this honor. Reflects the outstanding athletes I was privileged to coach, the knowledgeable coaches that mentored me, and the students I was privileged to teach. There was never a day I didn't look forward to teaching and coaching at OHS. In January 1957, a young student teacher came to Ottawa High School. There he met and learned from McCray Shannon, George Willy, Gil Love, Bill Novak, Dean Riley, June Gross, Jim Sutherland, Keith Clark, Jim Harris, Charlie Alaconis, and Merle Burke. What a group to provide examples of excellence in teaching and coaching, and they're all in the Hall of Fame. I was able to return in 1964 to teach and help coach football and track. Football, I started at the freshman level under the tutelage of Jim Sutherland, then moved to the varsity level in 1965. I thought by that time I knew football. I didn't know diddly squat. From Bill Novak, I learned that practice organization to the point of synchronizing our watches before we ever went out to practice. More about that later. Team discipline and line play. Dean Riley covered offense and was referred to as the Mississippi Gambler. Nothing was ever a gamble. It was based on what we saw on film, read in newspapers, and received from scouting reports. Do the unexpected. Ralph Nelson was a defensive genius. Shutout was the motto. If they don't score, you only got to score once to beat them. But he kept things simple. For example, a defensive end learned 12 words. Ball come, I come. Ball go, I stay. Ball back, I go. Remember the watches? You've never heard thunder until you've heard Ralph tell you to get the DBs over to team defense because you're 1 minute late. No, maybe it was 2 or 3 minutes late when I got him over to it. Gary Vansel was another outstanding coach who added to my knowledge over the years. After retiring from teaching, I was able to continue coaching football as a scout and sophomore volunteer coach for Tim Yepes, Trent Swords, and Mike and Mark Cooper. In track, Larry Miller had me coach the hurdlers, the 400 and 1600 relay, which continued under head coaches Bob Anderson and Trent Swords. I continued as a volunteer coach after retiring from teaching. The triple jump was added to the list of events, as well as coaching the girls in these events for Pete Armstrong and Jessica Kuhn. Now it's time to pay tribute to the student athletes it has been my privilege to coach. They were there because they wanted to be. They always put the team ahead of themselves because there's no I in team. They were proud to represent themselves families, their school, and their community, and they did it with class. As much as it means to have this flag, the rewards experienced over the years in the classroom and on the field and track are the true rewards. The joys, challenges, and fun are the true rewards of spending as much of my life with the students and athletes of OHS. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Val Vander Meer, represented by last year's 1961-62 football team Hall of Fame member Dick Raber.
I'm very honored to represent this gentleman. He was a very good friend of mine and Bill Callahan's in high school. And this may be very emotional for me, so just hang on, please. First, I'd like to congratulate the inductees this year. I know it's a very great honor to be in this Hall of Fame. Congratulations to you. I also want to thank the administration, the Hall of Fame committee, the faculty, staff, and students for keeping this high school a very special place in all of our hearts. Thank you, guys. And I don't know about you, but every time they sing or play that song, it does something to my heart. It's a pep song. Some insight on Val Vander Meer. He is a true gentleman and a very kind person in his life. He grew up in Chicago. He went to the University of Illinois and graduated in 1925 with a major in commerce and business administration. He joined the U.S. Army in 1942 and served our country. When he was done there, he came to Ottawa and worked at the unemployment office, helping people get jobs in that area, and he lived over there on Washington Street, just not far from the high school. He loved to work with people, and he loved sports. And one of his awards that I did not know about until I got here this evening was he was inducted in the Illinois Coaches Hall of Fame as a fan, I don't remember what they call it, a fan, friend of basketball or a friend of sports. And that's a pretty big honor for a gentleman that was loved by this high school and the kids. And he loved sports, he loved helping people. And he never missed an athletic event in 30 years. Now, I know if there was more, if he was alive now and there was athletic events, he'd be here 24 hours a day because they've expanded the athletic department to obviously girls and other sports. So, but he would still be involved, you could bet on it. He started the American Legion baseball team here in Ottawa. And of course he started the Booster Club, helped get that going. Being a very caring person, he took Bill and myself and a number of kids to basketball games. Didn't have to. When our parents couldn't drive us, he'd pick us up, and he'd pick up kids in past years and previous years before, and we'd go to basketball games, and he'd take us. And this one time he stops, he says, I gotta go pick up a friend. I said, okay, so 3 or 4 of us in the back seat. He says, okay, fine, that's good, Val. So we stopped at this one house, and out comes a gentleman, and his name was Choppy Smith. And he was somewhat of a high-ranking officer in the U.S. Army at the time. And we said, hey, hi, Mr. Smith, how you doing? You know, and the 3 of us in the back seat, 13 or 14-years-olds, and Mr. Smith, and Val went nuts. He says, you call him Choppy. I said, no, we can't call him Choppy. He's Mr. Smith. And Val said, you know how many Mr. Smiths there are in the country? And we said, well, yeah, probably quite a few, but... So we didn't want to call him Choppy, you know, as 13 and 14-year-old kids, we were told it was Mr., Mrs., Miss, that's how we were supposed to conduct ourselves. And so we went to the basketball game, and between the 3 or 4 of us that were there, what are we going to call this guy? Can't call him Choppy, I don't feel comfortable calling him Choppy. You know, so he said, well, let's try Mr. Choppy. That didn't work. So we kind of hashed it over, and finally we decided on Sir Choppy. So we got back in the car, started driving home from the ball game, and one of us in the back seat says, Sir Choppy. Val went kind of ballistic a little bit again and says, no, you call him Choppy. No, we're going to call him Sir. So that's the only time we ever convinced Val to do anything, was we called him Sir Choppy. And those 2 guys together were like, I guess, Abbott and Costello. They were funny. We had so much fun. And he always had a favorite greeting. And it was a strange greeting. It was, how you be, boy. Every time you met the man, I don't care if you knew him for 5 years or 50 years, it would always be, how do you be, boy. Now, I don't know if there was girls' athletics at the time, it would be how you be, girl. But there wasn't any girls' athletics at the time, it was just the boys back in the day. But how you be, boy was one of his favorite greetings, or his only greeting. He also drove people in teams when they couldn't get a bus, or couldn't get enough players, or couldn't get the players to games. He would just volunteer to drive the teams, or part of the team, to the away event. In practice, he was always at practice, 5:30 every night at basketball practice. Stands at the end of the field where the team comes out. We come out of the locker room after practice, and how you be, boy, and you put your arm around them, and it's just fantastic caring for kids. How you be, boy. They'd 4 or 5 come out at every time somebody come out was how you be, boy. Every time to every person. And at the end of the year, we the seniors got kind of I don't know what you call it, something to look forward to, going to a game. So we were thinking it might be hockey, basketball, football, baseball, you know, and it ended up, of course, being baseball. And we had 2 teams. Guess which one it was? Take a guess. Come on, somebody. No, so that's the one. That's the one I hope. No, it was the Cubs game. It was a Cubs game, and so we all go to the Cubs game. So we get on the bus. Away we go to the Cubs game. Go to the game. Have a great time. Come home. On our way home, we stop at a restaurant. And what are we stopping here for? Well, we're going to have it was a smorgasbord or a buffet or whatever. And okay, we go in, eat, a bunch of high school seniors, and get home, and we thought that was a nice thing that the administration might have done some of that. No, Val paid for it all. He paid for the tickets, he paid for the transportation, he paid for the food, and he paid for the fun. For years he did that. Paid for it out of his own pocket. And to me, that was something that said a lot about Val Vander Meer. A very giving